1. All right, and we are live. We are continuing, surprise, surprise, with decimals today. We are finally officially, however, moving on to decimal place value. That is what today's focus is. And aside from the typo, our essential question of the day is, how can you represent a decimal in a place value chart? We already looked at how to represent whole numbers up to millions. We're going to go in the opposite direction and take a peek again. I know I've been previewing the place value chart for you over and over, and you're going to see it again until it's engraved in your head. All right. First key terms for us to review. Again, we had a preview of this in yesterday's lesson, but official terminology, equivalent decimals. Just like with equivalent fractions, equivalent decimals are decimals that name the same amount. All right, so for example, if I was writing 1 4/10, 1 4/10 is going to have the same value as 1 40/100 and 1 400,000. No matter how many zeros I annex at the end of my decimal, the value of that number is still going to be 1 4/10. Does everybody agree with me? Yes. Right? Because if I was to simplify 1 40 hundredths or 1 400,000, I would still always get 1 4/10. Yes.
But like, I mean, even if you did that, but say you gave like a fraction like 60 over 100, and you had to put it in the decimal. But then couldn't you just do 6 over 10?
Yeah, you can just put 6/10.
Okay.
Correct.
Because we have one of those really confusing.
Yeah, so in fact, it is something I strongly encourage. Always try and write your decimals in simplest form. So if you got 40 hundredths, I would write it as 4/10, because those extra zeros at the end are unnecessary. Just like you wouldn't say, I am 11 and 0/10 years old. You would just say I'm 11, right? 0/10, 0/100, 0/1000. If there's a zero is a zero. There is no need to record it. All right? Go for it. All right. So let's take a look at our place value chart yet again. Looking closely at our decimals. With our decimals, again, everything is a tenth of the number to the left. So we're always going to be dividing by 10. As we move into the right, move into our decimal place value. So here we go. Let's take a close look and see how we would begin to read these numbers and how we can visually represent the value. Hopefully we all remember the difference between digit, place, and value. Do you remember that? Remember we did DVP. The digit is the physical number. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 are the only possible digits. So looking on our chart, in our place value system, these are our digits, 3, 2, and 1. I did not say how much each of those digits are worth. That is determined, Lucy, that is determined by the place it's in. So if 3 is in the 10th place, that's where it lives, in the 10th place, then it is worth 3/10. Notice that on this chart, I have included for you, and I guess you can't see it on that one, huh? I'm gonna have to show you here. For some reason, it's cut off. Oh, there we go. Notice that I have it written in decimal and fraction form so that you can see the true value and how it would be written in both ways, because you can write it in two ways. The value of 3/10 as a decimal would be 0.3. As a fraction, the value would be 3/10. Yes, Valentina.
I just noticed your Bitmoji looks exactly like you right now.
Oh yeah, thank you. I tried. So, and then of course, when you see that decimal point, shout it out loud. That is the word and. We use that when we're writing.
Why does your technology have glasses?
Sometimes I wear glasses. All right, let's focus on the math, okay? All right, so when we look at this number, we know the value of our 3/10 is 3/10. The value of the 2 is 200ths, and the value of the 1 is 1,000. However, knowing the value of these digits individually does not mean we're going to, when we read this number, that we're going to read every single digit's value. I'm not going to read this as 1 3/10, 200ths, 1,000th. Who remembers when we did whole numbers, how many digits we can read at a time? Yes, Lucy?
3. So I think you would write it 1 and 321,000.
Beautiful. Now, there is a slight difference when it comes to decimals. So I don't know if those at home heard, but when we were working with our whole numbers, we read it a period at a time, right? We read 3 numbers at a time. When it comes to decimals, right, we don't necessarily work in terms of periods with 3 digits at a time. We read our number and end our period wherever the final place ends. So for this number, what's the final place we ended on?
2,000.
What's anyone at home? What place did we end? Kai?
1,000?
The 1,000.
Yeah.
Don't forget that TH, right? I want all that spit, thousandths.
Thousandths.
Correct. So when we're reading this number, we're not going to say 3/10, 200ths, 1,000th. We're going to read this number as a normal, good old-fashioned number, 321. And then the only we're going to throw in is going to be where our last non-zero digit ends. It ended in the thousandths, so that's the only decimal term we're going to use. 321 thousandths. Is everybody with me at home? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. Let's take a look a little bit more closely. Here's another review, 5th graders, of how we're going to be reading our numbers. It's, guess what? The same forms we looked at with our whole numbers, we're going to look at with our decimals. We're going to be looking at standard form, expanded form, and word form. Standard form is the easiest way. Standard meaning the most basic. We are just going to list all of the digits in the number. So there's my sample one. 1.234. Done. Basic, standard. Expanded form is when we stretch it out. It's going to be a little bit different though, guys. This is not as easy as stretching it out, expanded form, with our whole numbers. This one, what do you notice?
You have to write the.
Did I put a whole bunch of zeros after this? What did I do with my decimals when I split them? I did something very specific here. Begins with an S. No, don't say your name. Anyone at home? Begins with an S. What did I do with my decimals here? Nobody?
I know. Well, I don't know what the word is, but I know what you did to them.
Well, what did I do?
When you broke them up, you didn't just write the number, you wrote them with all the zeros and the placeholders.
Right, so I have my zeros and placeholders, but what else did I do?
You separated.
I separated them. I also simplified. All of these decimals are in simplest form. They are in simplest form, and I'll show you that more at the board, how I would split it up. So I did write each separate decimal by their value, which is what you do in expanded form. You write according to the value, but I also made sure I simplified all of my decimals. I don't have any extra zeros at the end. Yeah, Willow.
Well, when you're doing previous lessons, I simplified it, but I got it wrong on the first. Because I didn't think I was supposed to simplify, but I
Double check, because if I saw some people simplified, and when I went through and I corrected it personally, I changed the score. So double check.
Oh, well, I just remember I did it, it was like 6/10 and I simplified it to 3/5.
Yeah, I think I gave you credit for that. I remember. I had a couple people who did that. So I had a really good statement in here for my Zoomies at home. Can you simplify it past tenths, hundred, and thousands? Like, let's say you got 2/10. Could you simplify it to 1/5? Technically, sure, you could. Is it necessary though if we're dealing with just decimals? Not necessary. You can keep tenths, hundredths, and thousands as tenths, hundredths, and thousands if we're working with decimals. All right? Yes, Seb? In the hallway. All right. And then word form, our favorite word form, we write each of our numbers in, well, as words. It's pretty self-explanatory. But the most important thing to remember is that we're finally going to use that word and, that for some reason people are still using when there are no decimals. I don't know why, but I'm still seeing it. This is the only time you can use and you should only use it once. There's only
1,500.
one decimal point in any given number. There's never more than one decimal point. So that and tells me I am moving on from whole numbers and switching gears to decimals or fractions. Yes.
So, can you write decimal too? 1 decimal?
No, we wouldn't say decimal because,
Because in front of the decimal, you have to.
well, that's not how you read the number though. That's how you would write the number. When you read it, the and is telling me I'm moving on to fractions. Like if I gave you the fraction 1.5, it would be a whole number 1 and then a proper fraction half. So you see how your decimals and your fractions go very closely hand in hand. You're basically reading the value of it as well. Okay? All right.
Why is there stuff up there?
We're doing math now, Lucy. Okay. So let's take a look at our different forms. I've written it out for you, and of course, I love my color coding, so I've continued my color coding. Standard form of this number, I'm just going to look at the digits. 1 decimal, 3, 2, 1. Easy peasy. Easiest way to write it, yes? Don't have to do any extra work. Expanded form. Look what I did here. I have to take each of these individual digits and I have to write the value of them. The 1 has a value of a 1. That's pretty easy. It's a whole number. The 3, I can't just write 0.3. Remember I said when you write a decimal, you must put a 0 in the whole number place to anchor down that decimal point.
If there's no whole number.
If there's no whole, well, not for expanded form, you're not, every digit has its own. So you're gonna have to use a 0 here. Yeah.
If there's no whole number, then whole.
Now the 2, I can't tell you how many times I see this common error. People put 0.2. The 2, if needs to still appear in the hundredths place because the 2 is worth 2 hundredths. So you're going to have to annex a 0 there. And then finally, the 1 is in the thousandths place. Do not forget to annex 2 zeros. Let's read this together.
1,000.
721 thousandths. We ended in the thousandths place, so that is the only decimal word you write. I don't care how big your number's getting, you're going to always end in the decimal place that your last non-zero digit ends. And again, the same rules apply as with our whole numbers. Where do you see a hyphen? Between those connector numbers. Anything from 21 all the way to 99 always gets a hyphen. Always.
Miss Velez, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you say, like, if you were writing it out in word form, would you write, if it was like, 0.32, would you write 0 and 32 hundredths?
Fabulous question. Just like in real life with fractions, we never say 0, right? If I said I have 1/2 of something, I don't say I have 0.5, do I? So if I had 0.32, I would just say I have 32 hundredths. I don't need
And
to
one more
say,
question.
yeah,
Can you say 0.32?
no. Point is not our math word that we use. It's not a math word. So I would say 32 hundredths because you still have to say the value of that 32. So if you just say 0.32, I have no idea what the value of the 32 is. And I, at that point, don't even know if it's a whole number or a decimal. Good question. Yeah, Willow?
So when I was doing my homework yesterday, my dad said that some people say point, and then so I started saying point.
I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
It's more of slang, right? It's not the proper way to say it. People might say it outside, like, I have 0.5 of this, right? But
Decimal point. Then say that was decimal. I was saying decimal, and then he said that some people just say point. But I wouldn't write point now, and I would say
you would say, always say and, yes. Yep.
Wait, I have a question.
Wait, hold on. I have one more question here. Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't use the word point in your word form because, right, you wouldn't say I have 1.5 of something. You would say I have 1 5/10 because I don't know what that 5 is out of at that point. Pun intended, point. Okay. Yes, I had one more question from my
Wait,
Zoom.
Willow answered my question, so never mind.
All right. So now, yes, Sinjin, you have a question?
Okay, so why is point wrong?
Well, point is not a math term.
So you can't say it then?
Right. So if you said point, I have no idea what you're talking about.
But if I say 0, like to continue off of Maisie's question, if I say 0.32,
Then I don't know what that point is representing, and I don't know how much that 32 is out of, or if it's a whole number or it's a decimal. The and officially tells me that it is no longer a whole number. And we say and for both fractions and decimals. For example, if I had 1.5 of something, I wouldn't say 1.5, would I? I would say 1.5 to show that I have 1 is the whole number and the half is less than a whole number. So the same thing, I would say 1 5/10 would be the same as 1.5. So that and gives us a separation with our whole numbers and our fractions.
so then why do so many people say it? Why do so many people say point?
Why do so many people make up the number 100? It's slang. People get very used to saying things in a certain way, and everybody's always looking for
I'm
shortcuts.
guilty for saying it.
Right?
like oh my god instead of
Right. Okay. So just like 100 is not a word, we don't say point either. If I asked you out loud because I couldn't see your work, how would you write that in number form? I would accept someone saying out loud, I would put 0.5 because you're visually explaining how it looks. But in word form, if I'm reading a number, I'm reading the value of the entire number as a whole. Does that make sense? Yeah, maybe. All right, so let's do some sample ones. Everybody's going to be in your textbook on pages 14 and 15. Let me get my light on. 14 and 15.
Are you gonna get back in 10 million years? Wait, what page is that?
Oh, 14 and 15. Oh, well, that was fun. Don't worry about it. All right. Let's try some sample problems. Yes, it does. All right. So let's take a look at Number 1, let's read the directions. Write the word form for each number and give the value of the underlined digits. You're going to have pretty much the same exact thing in your homework. You're going to be writing the word form and telling me the value. So let me write this number up on the board for us. What form am I writing it in, by the way? Standard form. Writing it by digit, standard form. Now let's work on reading this number in word form. The very first thing I read, I need to see if there are any whole numbers. Are there any whole numbers in this decimal?
Yes.
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 Right here. What is the value of this?
4.
4. It is in the ones place, so we write 4. When I say decimal, you say and. Decimal.
And.
All right, 4 and. Now I know that I'm going into my decimal place value system. When I get to this part, the actual decimal, do not tell me the value of every single digit. We're going to read it in the normal period way. We're going to read these 3 digits at a time. So how would I read this? 7. How do you read this? Just this number. Block everything else out. How would you read this?
437.
Just this number. How would I read this?
737.
700. That's all I'm gonna write. 7, and I'll write it down here so everybody.
Oh, wait. Okay. I thought you were saying like, oh, we're going to write it in a different way. And I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
737. What do I need to put between the 37?
Hyphen.
Like the, yeah.
Hyphen, so we can smack it together. 4 and 737. I need to show that I'm in the decimal place. So where do I end? Go ahead, shout it out. Zoomies. I hear one person.
Thousands.
Whoa, I didn't hear enough phlegm there. Thousands. 5th graders, if you write thousands without the TH, your answer is 100% wrong. All right, you need to show me that you are in decimal. So 4
Hey,
737 thousandths. That's how you would write this number. Why? Because if you wrote this as a fraction, it would be 4 and 737
thousands.
thousand. See that?
Yeah.
All right, next part of the question. They underline the 3. What is the value of the 3? How much is the 3 by itself worth? Sebastian, what was that? It's worth hundreds? That's the place it's in. What is the 3 worth? 3. I will accept 300ths for the value as a fraction, or
300.
I will accept either of these for the value of the 3. You guys see that?
Yes.
Yes. Fractions and decimals are the same. They are just written differently. Okay, decimals can only be written out of tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Fractions have been working very quickly. There's a slight difference between fractions and decimals in that decimals follow our traditional value system, which only works on a series of tens, right? Hundreds, thousands,
Wait, if
etc.
you were writing the next one, would you write
Well, we'll look at it together, please. All right. Let's write this one out. I'm writing again what form, everybody? Zoomies and roomies? What form am I working with?
Standard.
Standard. Okay, and I'm going to check. Are there any whole numbers? Yes, there is. We have a 9. We made it to a decimal. When I say decimal, you say? And 9.
And 800.
And now read this whole number by itself. Pretend there's nothing else. Just isolate it. How would I read this number?
806.
I heard an and.
806.
All right. No. 800. Don't say and. There can only be one and that's only if there's a decimal. 806. I am not done. This is not a whole number. 806 is a whole number. We are dealing with a fraction or a decimal. What must I put at the end, Soren? What do I need to put to show that 806 is a decimal?
You have to put the dot, or it just looks like 806.
So I just put a dot here? Well, hold on. I can't put a dot because I'm working with word form now, though. What do I need to do to show that this is a decimal? Enzo, we did put and, but I still don't know how much this is worth. I don't know what place this ended in. What place did this end in? I'm looking out in my zoomies. Seraphin? Hold on, Seraphin?
9 and 806,000.
1,000. Good. Look, I'm going to show you why this last part is so important, because I could have this. This is 9 and 806, 10,000. You see that? If I don't say thousands, I don't know where that is, because I could have all the way, I could have that many zeros after my decimal point. As long as I have 806, I'm still going to say 806 no matter what. But I need to know where I stopped. My decimals could go on forever. Where did that 806 land? So if you don't tell me thousands, I don't know how many zeros are coming before the 806. What if there's 100 zeros before the 806? I have no idea. You have to tell me where to stop. Where to stop. All right, and they asked about the value of the 6. What's the
Miss Velez?
Yes. The value of the 6, Maisie?
The value of the 6 is 6 thousandths.
6,000 or 6 thousandths. I just want to know what the 6 by itself is worth. Just out of curiosity. What if I had, and this is not in your book, how would I read this? How would I read this? Jordan? this. Luigi?
Is it 23,000?
You are absolutely correct. I don't say 0 because in real life, if I had no whole numbers, I wouldn't say I have 0 of this. You'd be like, okay, why did you say that then? I have 0. You'd be like, I don't have anything. So I'm just going to look at the 23 because that's the only numbers I have to work with. I'm going to write 20 hyphen 3, and then so that I don't have a 23 with 5,000 zeros before it, I need to say, where did it end? Tenths, hundredths, thousands. The last place it ended in was 1,000. So I need to say that's where you're going to stop. Perfect. Thank you. Great job, Luigi. Do you guys see that at home?
Yeah.
To write this, or else I'm going to have an answer like that. Still 23, but it did not end in the thousands place.
No, it did not. Sorry.
All right. Now let's look at expanded form. 6/10 plus, guys, please listen, 5th graders. What? There's a lot of numbers there. That's a long number. I'm going to show you how to piece it together. Please listen. Whenever you add anything with decimals, the only clue you need is to line up your decimal point. Watch how I line it up. Whole number 6. Remember I told you there's an invisible decimal point after every single whole number with an infinite amount of zeros. Now I'm going to take my next number, I'm going to find the decimal point, and I'm going to put it directly under. And now I'm going to write my numbers to the left and right of it. 0, 6. And I'm going to annex a 0 here as a placeholder. The next, I did this number, I did this number. Let's do this number. Put my decimal point down again. Write all the numbers after it. And now annex zeros. 0, 0, 0. Did this number. Last number, write my decimal point again. There's 2 zeros
0,
and a 7. I'm going to annex all the rest of the zeros. 0, 0, 0, 0. Now let's add them all together. First thing you do, please listen. The first thing you do is, before you add anything, bring your decimal point down. Then you always go from right to left whenever you add, right? 0, we get 7, 0, 0, 3, 0, 3, 0, 6, 6, 6. So our final number is, read the number with me in word form. 6 and 630
Oh, yeah.
thousands. Do you see how you write it?
Yeah.
I did it a different way, but I got the same answer.
Yeah, there's
Wait,
other.
Miss Velez?
You just look at what's in each place.
I just looked at it and then I stepped the
Yeah.
0 place and then I said the 3.
That's fine. Yes, Sebastian?
Miss Velez?
It has to end in TH because decimals are. I'm sorry? I can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
He said Google.
All right. Let's try another one.
Wait, Miss Velez?
Yes.
Wi-Fi sort of dropped. I don't know if you got my chat, but that was right. I sent you a chat that Wi-Fi was pretty bad right before I got kicked out.
It's okay.
All right.
Just stick with us now. 4 and 68 hundredths. All right, now I gave you the word form. Let's write this in standard form. 4. Can you all see that at home?
Mm-hmm.
When I say and, I'm going to put a decimal for it. 4 and. Let's read this. 68 68, and it said hundredths. Am I in the hundredths place? Let's check. Tenths, hundredths. Good. Awesome. What if I said 4 and 68? Thousandths. What am
Gotta
I
add a zero.
have to do? Clarissa, what do I have to do? Is this correct?
Yes. Or
Well, read it. 4 and where did it end?
oh, add a zero.
Oh, right here?
No.
Where?
In between
Between what?
the 6 and the 8.
Here?
No.
Because that's 608 now. Where do I?
But it's fine since it's 4.68, and that is the thousandths place, so it's fine that way, right?
This is hundredths place. Tenths, hundredths. So this is 4 and 68 hundredths. How do I make it into 4 and 68 thousandths?
Add a zero.
I know, definitely add a zero, but I don't know quite where. Where should I put that zero? If I put it at the end, then this is 680 thousandths. That's not what I need. If I put it in the middle, that's 608 thousandths. Where do I put that zero? If I put it in the end, it's 680. Willow?
In front of the 6.
You put the zero here. You're absolutely correct. Right. So let's look at this now. How would I expand it? Well, we're going to take one number at a time. Let's expand this. The first thing you write is your whole number. 4. Done. Plus, what's my next number? So we did 4. Yeah. Do I need to write a zero?
Yes. No.
Zero has no value. Why am I'm not looking at this. Bye. Let's move to the next whole number.
Bye.
6. So 4 plus 6,
No.
correct?
No. It's 0.6. Or
Oh, 0.6. So this is where.
no, wait, no, it's 0.06.
Oh, 0.06. This is in the hundredths place. So I have to write 6 hundredths. You see that?
Yes.
Let's move to we did 4, let's move to the 8. How much is the 8 worth?
0.008.
It's 8,000. So I have to go 0, decimal, and make sure I end in the thousands place. Tenths, hundredths, thousands. Now this is how I expand my number. Notice I intentionally did not write that 0 because that 0 has no value. It is simply a placeholder. Okay? Because it has no value. When you write expanded form, you are writing the value of each digit. If a number has no value, there's no need to write it. I'm not going to write 4 plus 0 plus 6 hundredths plus 8 thousandths because why even write that if it's 0, right? So we only write by value. Does everybody at home get that? No need.
Wait, Miss Velez,
Yes.
did we just do number 4?
Kind of. I switched it from hundredths to thousands though.
Okay, I noticed that and I was like, wait a second.
Because I wanted to make it a little harder. Very quickly, last one, just because you're going to have 2 questions like this on your homework. So if I give, let's review equivalent decimals. If I gave you this decimal, what other decimals can I write that have the same value? You should have an infinite number of answers. Luigi.
Add a 0 or annex a 0.
Hey, don't.
You could just write it without the zeros. because the zeros have no value. Correct. I could take a 0 away.
Why even waste a million?
Or I said I could add a million. I'm not going to do it. I could add a million zeros after it. As long as I, in all of my answers, have these digits where they're supposed to be,
Why even waste your packing money? So zero.
I can take away or add as many zeros as I want and have it be equivalent. Are you guys cool? You guys get it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah? All right, fifth graders at home, you guys are, I'll see you tomorrow.
Wait, Miss Velez, I have a question.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
You guys line up.
So
Wait, is this the
homework
last
for
thing of the
today is a
day?
Quick set. The homework for the homework for
hold
today
on.
is a quick
Guys,
check.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
On you going out to recess, but I need to be able to listen to them, so the sounds. Yes, what'd you say?
So the homework for today is a quick check. Is that it, or are you gonna post something more?
You should have a quick check, and if you want to get started, it's gonna be posted for tomorrow. I think I already put it up, though. You should have practice page 1-4.
Okay. Thank you. Hope you have a nice day.
See you tomorrow.
I'll see you at Read Aloud Novel Study.